This is the Seahawkers podcast. We are live. We are uncatfished, as we know is sometimes required, just to give that disclaimer up front. And I'm joined by my good buddies, Adam Emmert, Clinton Bonner, Adam. Here we are.
Here we are. Not using the microphone that we think we were supposed to be using because technology hates me. So, yeah. But you said uncatfished. Maybe I'll be on good behavior today. I don't know. I'm not making promises. I'm just saying I could make an effort at it.
Yeah, well, you know, it's you do you. Just be yourself. Because
I definitely filter me on all of these. Yeah.
Clinton, another week down of Seahawks news. Maybe some frustration that, well, I felt some frustration that I want to get into. This may be my vent session for this week, because I don't know if anybody else feels as angry as I do, just judging even by people out on Twitter that seem to want to talk sense into an emotional situation that I'm just not prepared to set aside emotions for.
Yeah, I think you might be the one who needs the catfish button, you know, when for the replays this time. By the way, last time we did this, I think Adam came out, I want to say hot. I think within the first like 30 seconds, there was a live and uncatfish moment last time, which was fun. You know, good for ratings, certainly. And yeah, Brandon, I think it'll be fun. Well, it'll be interesting to talk about, to talk through the emotions that you were kind of still working through and uncovering. And I think I know we'll talk about it. I think it'd be interesting to dive into it, like the spectrum of where people are at when it comes to the whole Bobby saga. Now that we saw, well, not just the landing spot, but the dollars and cents and everything else. And it kind of parlays back into our last show, right? I think people should go check it out, because we talked about last time was like, hey, how are the Seahawks really spending their money? And is it, you know, is it good, bad, ugly, or who cares? He is Adam coined last time, which I think is great, by the way. And I think it continues with this, because seeing what Bobby signed for, you start to be like, are we spending our money wisely? And why seemingly are other teams spending it differently? Let's put it that way, right?
Well, Eileen comes in right away, says, "What's up, guys? Go Hawks." I had to stand behind this dude at the store that was wearing a Rams Super Bowl champs shirt.
Ugh.
Yeah, I can think of, that's not good, especially when we have to sit and watch Bobby Wagner not only sign a contract, but then they put out some jersey with Bobby Wagner wearing the number 45. Michael Jordan wearing the number 45 has never made anything look so weird.
No.
But Bobby Wagner wearing 45, that they couldn't figure out how to get Bobby Wagner his actual number in LA. The only thing that makes me feel better about this is knowing that there's no way Bobby plays any better in LA wearing 45. It looks wrong.
So it feels a little like you have Mario and Wario, right? Like there's Bizarro, Bobby Wagner here, so we just call him Magner, you know, because, you know, Mario, Wario.
Yeah, the W. Yeah,
Wagner,
Magner. Flip it, yeah.
Yeah, the flip of it. The 45 made me feel better, because then he doesn't look like himself in that jersey, which means it's not really him. And it's going to be a little easier to stomach. Now, I think I'm having an easier time stomaching this than you are, Brandon. You know, on this last road trip that I just was on, it was a long one. And, you know, I was doing some thought on it and everything. And, you know, it just kind of had maybe a little more Zenite focus to it. And just the idea of, you know, everything that has a beginning has an end. And, there comes a time when you're ready to move on as an organization, and they clearly are. And look, it would have been nice to have Bobby around for the locker room presence and all that stuff. Absolutely. And on the field as well. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's still a fine player. But at the end of the day, isn't it a little more fair to him to let him go and try to chase another ring? And
if that's what he wanted, if he wanted to leave and chase a ring, then fine. But listening to Bobby, he wanted to be in Seattle. So what are we doing? What are we doing sending him somewhere else when he's talking about Seattle's his home? He wants to
wait.
What?
Wait. The proof is in the pudding, dude. Like, sure, Bobby says a lot of things in interviews, but what did he sign for? A lot of money or a league minimum or a vet minimum contract?
Oh, it's a decent amount of money. It's $7 million for 1 year.
I guarantee you, if it was a vet minimum, the Seahawks would have had him back.
They wouldn't.
So, like, how badly did he really want to be in Seattle?
For a vet, you're telling me that a future Hall of Famer that the Seahawks would have gone to him and asked him to take a veteran minimum contract?
Well, obviously it wasn't 10 mil for a year. It was less than that.
Listening to Sherman talk, it wasn't even, they didn't even go to him asking him to take a pay cut. They had already made the decision to move on from him.
In the building now knows all the conversation.
Richard Sherman was the one who announced the deal, so I'm ready to take his word for it over not having any information at all.
How do you think Richard Sherman announced the deal?
Because he was in it with Bobby.
He seems to be pretty connected.
Oh, so Bobby talked to him, and then he let out Bobby's side of the story, and that's how it went for sure.
We have to piece together the information that we have. We have no information that the Seahawks were asking him to take a pay cut. I don't understand why. Why do you think you know more information about this?
I'm not saying I know anything about it. That's the difference. Like I'm saying that there are known unknowns, and then there's unknown unknowns, and I don't know any of the unknowns. I don't know about you, Clinton. How many knowns do you know?
I know a few things. I know a few things here. I think I know a few things, and I'll go out on a limb. And I don't think at the end of the day that this was about money for the Seahawks. I think the facade of the money was a very convenient excuse.
If it were about money, they would have gone to him and asked him to take a pay cut.
It's like, hey, this is $20 million a year. We can't pay you that. And, for what he did sign for, which was tantamount to like $10 million a year, essentially. And then I did see somebody, I think it was the Ring of Honor, say, well, it's a little more nuanced than that because Seattle has to eat $4 million this year. So at the very least, it's kind of like take the 10 and the 4 and he'd be a $14 million player. Yada. So totally.
They eat $4 million this year because I believe that was what was left from his signing bonus when he signed his extension. It's dead money. Yep. And that's just what the Seahawks, for cap purposes,
they're in for that anyway. So it's like, that to me, you actually could just take out of the equation. You owe that regardless. You already signed the check on that thing. I just don't think it's about money. I think it's a convenient excuse to put it in the corner of it being the dollars thing. Meanwhile, I think it's Pete and probably John. No matter what they say on stage, hey, we exasperated every nook and cranny to try and keep this guy.
And then they didn't even call him. They didn't call him to
everything.
Know that they were releasing him.
And I'm not going to
get out another way.
But I'm not going to kill them for. I think it's a facade, just in the same exact way. Russell Wilson, what he had said the last year and a half or so, maybe more, was a facade to keep a certain persona and level out to the public. End of the day, I think Pete wants one last hurrah with young dudes. Like that's what I think he wants. I think he wants faster, young players and to give it a go with one more rebuild. And Bobby at any dollar amount over 10 million or so was not going to be in the equation. That's just my take. I think there's some lying at the top of it to make it about money when it's about speed, I think.
Well, I don't even think that the team was making it about money. I think that they made the decision to move on, like you're saying. And I'm saying that for a guy like that, you find a way. And I know Larry says it was time. No, I was not ready for this to happen. Now, I could have maybe been in the boat with you, Larry, if Bobby would have gone to the Ravens. But we are having to watch our legendary linebacker, Bobby Wagner, sign with the LA freaking Rams. And it's disgusting to me. I just don't understand. You're not playing for anything next year. We can be real about that, right? It's not like we're trying to go on this playoff run next year. Why can't you ride things out with your future Hall of Fame linebacker? If there's one guy on the roster that you can be loyal to, a guy who was on the field for 170 tackles, over 1,000 snaps last year, and instead you're paying a couple of defensive tackles.
This is a straw man argument, dude.
You're paying a couple of defensive tackles combined more than you're paying your future Hall of Fame linebacker. You're telling me that we couldn't have just rolled with Brian Monet and Poona Ford and a couple of draft dudes through the draft instead of having Quentin Jefferson and Al Woods?
Yeah, it's not an either or thing. Like
It's
they
totally
could've-
you can. Why is it not? Why is it not
because
either
the
or?
cap's magic, and they could have found the money wherever they wanted to. And to Clinton's point, it's probably not really about the money. Now, a couple points here. A couple points here. One, we have already gotten practice at watching an all-time Seahawk finish the tail end of their career on a division rival. We've already got the practice. Richard Sherman has done that for us. That was gross. It wasn't fun to watch, but now I know how to handle it, and I'll know how to handle it watching, Magner in his 45 jersey on the Rams. It's not going to feel good. I don't like it. I'm not happy about it. Anything like that. Second point. Thing about this is to Clinton's point that yes, they're ready to go all in on a whole nother rebuild and do it with young guys. Think about the way that Pete and John went about building the roster in the 10, 11, 12, 13 season. All the transactions, all of the roster churn, all of that stuff. They're looking to just start churning through guys and see what they got. Bobby Wagner isn't your answer for the next 6 years. Maybe not even for the next 2. He's maybe your answer for 1. So in their mind, let's get ahead of the ball game here. Let's get going. Let's start figuring out who's up next. Because having Bobby on the team is going to prevent that next guy from getting up there and showing what he has or doesn't have. And is it going to hurt? Is it going to look ugly? You bet your sweet ass it will. But at the end of the day, this is what is going to happen. And like I said, the cap is money to the iguana here. I don't know. I don't know if it's all the LA money.
It's not a whole lot of magic that the Rams are having to do here. Initially, when Sherman broke the news about Bobby, it was a 5-year, $50 million contract. And I know then a lot of Seahawks fans were saying, oh, well, that's great for Bobby. 5 years, $50 million. That's a heck of a deal for a guy nearing the end of his career. The only thing, it's not a 5-year, $50 million.
How much is guaranteed?
Contract. $10 million guaranteed.
Okay, so it's a $10 million contract.
It's essentially a 1-year, $10 million contract or a 2-year, $17.5 million contract.
Yeah, and I heard cap hit is only $1.5 million this year.
He gets it's 1.5 base salary, but his cap number is 2.5. So yeah, this is how the salary cap. This is how the Rams are working the salary cap. Is that they're paying Bobby for cap purposes, $2.5 million this year. And then that goes to $12 million next year. If they decide to cut him, then they have $7.5 million dead cap in 2023, and so that's his dead cap amount. But he's getting, his $10 million this year, because they're able to spread out that roster bonus over the 5 years because it's a quote unquote 5-year contract. So they spread out that bonus money over the course of those 5 years. And that's how, it's like magic credit card, spreading it out for the Rams. And that's how they're making this work, because they know that once, after they're done with Stafford, after they're done with Donald, they're going to just have to go into rebuild mode. And then that's when they're going to start worrying about their draft picks again.
Yep. No, that all makes that's the cap magic that you can punt it. And it seems like Schneider's he did a little bit of that last year, if we recall, right? A couple of restructuring things, but been far more reluctant to try that. And, Adam, to your point though, of like, hey, keeping the next guy from coming out and playing too. I do think that's it. Like we saw at the end of the year that Cody Barton, I thought he outplayed Bobby at the end of the year when it came to coverage, speed, just movement in space. I'm not trying to say the dude's a better player, all-timer, but right now, I thought Barton outplayed Bobby Wagner the games we saw him. Now, I will say...
Now you're pissing me off, Clinton.
Well, but look at the tape. We talked about it.
The thing is I don't care. I don't care if Bobby Wagner is slightly less good as Cody Barton. I don't care if I'm watching Cody Barton on the field from year to year. Like, what am I going to get watching Cody Barton play in 2022?
Wins, maybe some W's. Maybe
Cody Barton. The difference between Bobby Wagner, who's lost half a step, to Cody Barton is going to equate how many wins for the Seahawks next season.
It may be 0, but the difference in money we would have owed, and then slide that into, again, we could debate whether or not we're spending our money wisely or poorly. That's a different discussion. But, other players that we're grabbing, Nuoso, for instance, in a 3-4 defense where that guy could go do the things he's good at 26 years old, by the way, on a second contract. I don't mind it. Like when the Russ and Bobby stuff was kind of, looming, my brain was like, we are going to end up cutting Bobby. I didn't think we would ever trade Russ, ever. I thought we were going to cut Bobby because I was like, it just financially does not make sense. And he looked like he lost more than a step. That was my take. Love the dude. He's still freaking solid, but he was nowhere near 2016, 2015, 2014 Bobby. Just that dude was long gone. That's my take. Does he get rejuvenated with the Rams as Magner? God, I hope not. I sure hope not. And I hope
maybe if he didn't have to play 40 freaking minutes a game every week, we wouldn't have noticed that he lost a little bit of it.
Listen, we talked scheme previously also, that the dude was maybe getting exposed because the scheme was so darn bad. He's told just to lay back and then go get his tackles. Okay, well, that's the scheme. What's he supposed to do? That's definitely a possibility. Can another team scheme him very differently with talent like, Donald on the line? Yeah, probably. It's probably going to be like halfway through the year where I am just as pissed as you are, Brandon, but I'm not there yet. And I hope I never get there, but I could totally see like week 7 watching a Bobby, pick 6 against, some scrub and being so pissed off because he's like, a dynamo and on fire again. That's a possibility. And I don't want to face that yet.
To get to Jeremy's comment here at the bottom of the screen, I mean, do you keep guys around forever just because they're an icon? Well, I mean, in a Disney-fied world, absolutely. I mean, that would be amazing.
If you can, why not?
Easy now, bud. I'm gonna complete a thought here. Okay. So yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, in a Disney-fied world, you bet. I would love to see every all-time great retire with their team. Right now, I'm not talking just Seahawks, but you look back at the history of the league, it just doesn't happen. I'm looking forward to Emmitt Smith on the Cardinals being what Wags is over with the Rams. It's going to be fun to watch that. Like, I think it's unrealistic to think that in this business, it's a business. Like when they talk about Hollywood, it's not show friends, it's show business. And that's exactly what we got going on here. It was time to move on, and they didn't have to, but they chose to. And so here we are. So and all those points with their facts, logic, and reason, Brandon, I know are going to have a really hard time penetrating right now. So what I want to know is how we can get your feelings to the level of acceptance that this has already happened. It's done. And there ain't no takebacks. And here we are.
I mean, it'll just take time. But obviously, if the Seahawks were competing for a chip in 2022 and they had some young dude behind him that was like, okay, there's a potential upgrade. The salary cap makes sense. You're dumping Bobby. You're going to use that money to go pay some left tackle, solidify the line. You're going to go after another piece that makes the team immediately better. That's really going to allow you to take the next step in competing for a championship. Then I could rationalize it. But just saying that, well, Bobby lost a step, so he's, like new F guy. Wagner looked old and slow the past 2 seasons. Again, under the scheme, if he wasn't playing 40 minutes a game, maybe he wouldn't look so slow. Maybe we wouldn't have to take some plays off. But I do think that there's room for, when I think of Steve Largent, when I think of Cortez Kennedy, when I think of Walter Jones, like those were dudes that stuck with the franchise until the end. And
is that the norm or the rarity?
Well, it's obviously the rarity because they didn't do it with Sherman. They didn't do it with Earl. I thought Bobby could be that guy. I thought Bobby could be that guy. It happens enough that I feel like
it's waning though, right?
Again,
it's like it's
what else are they playing for? Why can't they have a little bit of loyalty?
I also think of us as like we're all mid 40s, right? So whether you like to say that yet or not, fellas, you are. And so we're all mid 40s. And growing up, it was different. Even free agency was well different back then. And the NFL is definitely trending. I mean, evidence this year. Like, look at the movement of freaking top wide receivers this year, right? And hopefully, I see the DK Metcalf, denotation there. Hopefully, it stops right there. We don't trade DK, but like the NFL is definitely becoming more NBA-ish. Like, that's just the way it is. The players are more fluid. There's less, and you could go back to like LeBron leaving Cleveland the first time to be like the one of the major breaks to be like, yep, gonna go to Miami and do this thing. And obviously it was happening in NBA previous to that, but he was like that last huge icon to be like, there is no sacrilege here. There is nothing wrong with this. This is going to go. So, oh, nice. Yeah.
Don't tell me about spending other people's millions, new F guy. Okay. I was ready to move on to DK until I saw this. You're telling
hold
me,
on, Brandon, before you go further, you just slandered Noof guy. Look at the profile picture. That's a Noofy.
okay.
It's a Newfoundland.
I like new F guy though. New F guy.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I guess so.
Sure.
Guy. But
yeah.
I think you and I see it very differently, Brandon, in terms of if they were competing for a championship next year, I would be furious if they got rid of Bobby. There's not anybody next year that's going to be 90% of Bobby Wagner. I'll give you Clinton that Barton's maybe 70, 75 of Bobby, but you're never going to find somebody next year to be 90% of Bobby Wagner. If you're competing for a championship, you keep him around. In a year where you're completely blowing it up and trying to do a rebuild and cycle through the roster and find new guys and find the next 5 years of success, that would be the time that you move on from an icon like that. And let him go and actually play out the rest of his career playing winning football on a winning team.
That last part felt dirty, just so you're aware.
I know. Look, them facts. And I don't like the facts. I'd love to change the facts. And then on top of all of that, you know who you can blame for all this player movement and everything that's happening now with the NFL and everything that? The freaking Rams. This is the Rams' fault. The way that they just went, them and the Bucks, the way they just went out there and rearranged the deck chairs as fast as possible and mortgaged out the future. Who gives a crap? It's time to win now. And it worked for them because the NFL said it would. And it just, this is the problem. This is the Rams' fault. Don't blame us. Blame the Rams. Put your hate, your sports hate that burns deep down in there back in the right spot, bud.
I can't get over this comment about the idea of all I wanted to do was pay Bobby to stay around. Like, I will give him Austin Blythe's money. Like, how is that spending like a drunken sailor?
You don't find out Austin Blythe
how is paying us? How? Hey, I let you finish. You don't.
Good point. Fair.
You've interrupted me twice trying to respond to new F guy now.
You're right.
New F
sorry. I'll do better.
No, new F the Rams.
Screw it. Let's talk about DK.
No, wait, but I want to give some love to Brandon, to your point on Blythe, right? On Austin Blythe.
No, I don't want to talk about him. Moving on.
Real quick, the Seahawks Nest podcast.
I don't want to talk about a dude who played 12 snaps last year. I don't want to talk about it.
My point is,
he played 12 snaps last year, and he's making $4 million for the Seahawks this year. We're not talking about it.
And Posick got 1.1 million from the Browns. My question is Posick, 300 times worse than 300% worse or more than
Seahusker wants us to move on. Talk DK.
All right, fine. Let's talk DK rumors. Let's go.
It'd be great to have DK around for the next 5 years. It really would. I'd love to have him re-signed and all that stuff. I think that's a guy you can build around and a guy that you can look at and be like, yeah, we can have him for the future of this rebuild. Because let's be real, this year's a dumpster fire. No matter what we do, this is what's happening. Next year, they're going to draft highly again and add free agents and all that. Hopefully that team is a lot like, the 2012 team where you looked at it, you went, oh crap, they put this together and we're just this much away from, winning a chip. And then the third year going all in and being super competitive. And DK can definitely be a part of that. He's got those sort of years left in him. Now, whether or not they keep him, that's a freaking mystery, man. I mean, I would think it's unconscionable to get rid of him. But then again, Russell Wilson wears an orange jersey now.
Yeah, it was unconscionable to get rid of the quarterback. So, but I can understand the argument. At least rationally, I can say, okay, there's a bunch of dudes coming out of college, a lot of good receiver. We're on our third year of draft experts saying that this is one of the best wide receiver classes that they've seen. And so year after year, there's these dudes coming out of college that have been really good. So can you find somebody to potentially upgrade DK who might be better than him, and you don't have to pay $25 million to? That's possible. I could at least see a rationalization there of, even 90% DK.
So different with Bobby and DK.
Yeah, I put it on.
No, I can understand the rationale. I'm not saying that I agree with the idea of getting rid of DK.
Like there are, for every DK and every AJ Brown and Justin Jefferson, because there had been a run of really good wide receivers coming out, and the wide receiver talent looks good again. And with that, you have your Raegers and your maybe Devonta Smith and every other Eagle that they've ever drafted who seems to stink, and N'Keal Harris. Now that just might be like, well, you make good choices, you make bad choices, but there's two sides to that coin. Yeah, there's been a ton of great wide receiver talent, but a lot of them are misses too. That's just the reality. Also, I did, Rob was on your guys' show, right? Talked with you very recently, Rob Staten, Brandan. And he was saying, what kind of trade would you maybe entertain? So I thought the Jets 10th, which I know was ours, but whatever. The Jets 10th and the Jets 38th, at least as a starting point that I could be like, all right, that's interesting for DK. I wouldn't want to do it, but at least it's pretty interesting considering what it would give us this year in terms of picks.
So we just talked about the idea that these drafts the last few years have been heavy in receiver year in and year out. In college football, is it going more run centric and less developing receivers and having a bunch of awesome receivers, or is it going towards more spread, air raid, receivers working in space, catching a lot of balls, working on their craft? I would argue that it's definitely going more offensive centric in college football. So if that's the case, then why am I giving up a bona fide superstar in his prime now when I can still draft all those other receivers that are out there in this deep, deep class of receivers with your own second, third, fourth round picks? I just don't see the monster upgrade there.
I agree, by the way. I am not on at all get rid of DK for this because he's, due a contract. Like, isn't it a good thing when the dude you drafted, you're like, oh yeah, he's a no doubt, we must resign that guy? Like, kind of indication that you drafted the right guy, right? So that's part of it too, is like there's this like movement in the NFL or with like cap nerds that are like, yeah, you got to make your decision so carefully with that second contract. And I agree to some extent, but there are just some people that should just be absolute no-brainers that you just say, yeah, we're resigning him. Like, he's going to get whatever top 5-ish money. We know he may produce in the top 10. Maybe he peaks at like, 2 to 5, something like that. And we're okay with that because the next year and the year after that, maybe he's paid top 5, then he's 7, then he's 12, then he's 15, and then it's time for his next contract, right? That's just the way it works. So I'm firmly in, give the dude the money, roll it out, secure him, maybe make him a captain and work it that way. Like, go in with DK Metcalf. I'm just intrigued by the conversation.
So to Noof guy here, by the way, Newfoundlands are amazing dogs. Like, they're like maybe my favorite breed. I love Newfies. But so we talk about the idea of, well, DK is, he's not in the $20 million a year club. Okay. And as fans, we have a hard time looking at the new numbers each and every year and seeing them 2 years from now. Like, $20 million a year today, when you pay a guy, is like paying a dude 3 years ago $15 million, which was unconscionable. You can't pay anybody that kind of money. And then the cap goes up and up and up. because this is the most popular sport in all the land. And all of a sudden, that $20 million doesn't seem like a crazy deal. And it's just something that you got to be conscious of. Blame the Jaguars. I mean, paying Christian Kirk all that money for like no reason. It just makes it tough on people.
Yeah, and to the idea that DK is dropping all these balls, seven drops in 2019, 8 in 2020, 4 last year. His drop percentage has gone down every year that he's been in the league. 7% in his rookie year, which for a rookie, okay, 6% in 2020, 3% last year when his foot was practically broken. So,
Right.
I think he's trending in the right direction, new F guy.
He is. And I think he's the, in my opinion, the kind of dude who's going to, yes, you're going to have your drops in the season where you're pissed off mid-game for a little bit. He's also the dude that puts up 2 touchdowns and scores one late fourth quarter and puts teams away and is the best player on the field at times. And like, that's what he has to grow into, is being like less at times and more like, hey, 10 out of 17 weeks or 12 out of 17 weeks, you were the alpha and there was nobody else close to you. We've seen it at the Philadelphia playoff game. Like, he won that game. Like, he was the best dude on the field that game. He's done that again. And by the way, he's a dude who can work the middle of the field. Remember that little drag route against the Niners? It was like year 2. He catches it, whatever, like 7 yards out, 12 yards out, turns on the burners around the corner, and nobody touches him. Cool. I love when teams, especially our team, is like, let's do this one thing, and it's amazing, and let's never do that one thing again. And that's what we kind of suffered through a little bit. So, new quarterback, let's see what happens here. But dang it, man, use him with slants, use him with drag routes. He doesn't need a lot of separation. First of all, he can get separation. Second of all, he does not need a lot of separation because his body's so damn big. Like, use that dude in different ways. And he has not, that's the one thing too, is like the 3 years of him on this team, he has not been maximized yet. And he is a peak freak athlete who can be maximized. If he went to another team, I mean, watching him score 14 touchdowns a year and 1,300 yards easily, I would throw up. I'm almost going to throw up right now, fellas.
Jeremy's point's a good one. I have 2 more to add to the DK conversation. Number one, we talked about all the receivers in the draft and everything, and sure, you trade the picks for that lottery ticket to get another one. How often does a guy with DK's size and speed come along in the draft? The last one before him was what? Probably Julio.
Was he even that fast?
I mean, the same dude that came out the year with him, AJ Brown.
Oh, AJ Brown's not nearly as big as DK.
Well, he's pretty big. He's
like
pretty.
He's like 2 inches shorter.
He's not as big as.
He's not as big. He's not as fast, I don't think, either. Not in the 40. I don't think.
He's just such a rarity. He's just a rarity. And I think that's something that you're not going to find with additional picks going forward. Secondly, there's not often do you see a young quarterback click with young rookie receivers right out of the gate, and that helps them develop quickly. I mean, think about Russ developing early on. He had Sidney Rice. I mean, he got some veteran guys out there, Mike Williams, guys that helped him out because they were professional receivers that knew how to get open, how to run routes, how to, make their adjustments and everything like that. Whatever quarterback we're developing going forward, it is a much more friendly situation for them to have veteran DK and veteran Tyler out there running those routes and helping the quarterback come along and have success early. So then it breeds confidence, so that then they continue to have confidence. I would much rather have that situation than a bunch of young bucks running around out there and the quarterback being like, well, I don't know, like, just try to figure it out. And my other guys don't know either, but okay.
I think that would look like the Detroit Lions, right? Like, that's what they were last year, where it's like you got Goff, who, let's be fair, had his ups and downs, but a couple of years the Rams was really successful. When it was like scheme, you're going to do it this way. And it's like first 2 years, he was pretty good. And then, he kind of hit the skids. But they just had just a hodgepodge of, St. Brown came out of nowhere, and it was really, really good. But for the most part, it's a bunch of just young dudes who don't quite get it yet. And you saw the results. And I don't know, like it's actually a strength of this team. And if we're tanking, yeah, trade DK. Like if that's really it, if you're really, but again, he's what, 25? It just doesn't make sense. You still have right in the middle of his prime where you could tank and keep that dude, build roster, and then still get his prime years. You know, like there's no need for a dude like that. And hands off Lockett. Do not trade Tyler Lockett. I would be more mad about Lockett than I am about Wagner. I would be.
So are we all going to find out this offseason of who our player is that bugs us the most that the team moves on from? Is this what's going to happen?
I think we are.
Oh, I mean, it was pretty easy to me. I mean, the idea of giving up an all-time franchise quarterback, it's unconscionable. I mean, it's only because quarterbacks equals wins.
Yeah,
like,
right.
That's really it. Where all the other positions, it's like, yeah, it's nice having awesome dudes, but it doesn't translate as directly as, say, the quarterback position. So
Russ is easier to take for me just because everything that happened last season, and I got more of the sense from him that he wanted out, and so that's
okay. Those are fair feelings, Brandon. You have good feelings. They're the right feelings for you.
Thank you for validating my feelings. And just wait on the next episode of the Seahawkers podcast where it's just you and me.
Yeah.
I still have some in the tank to have this discussion again.
So I was nice to you today. I'm going to drag you a bit tomorrow, and we'll call it good. But anybody watch the Noah Fant presser? Any big things jump off the screen from that?
I did not watch it yet. I meant to. Did not happen yet. So I saw a nice still image.
Oh, Daniel, you know us so
well. We'll probably put our first one out, I don't know, right around April 30th, maybe May 1st.
Oh, no, that's not when. We'll put out our first mock draft when Jared Goff gets his Hall of Fame coat.
Oh, it's wonderful.
We'll be mocking the draft after the Seahawks make their picks.
Do we plan on going? Can we?
That's a good pun by you. Yeah.
Do we? Yeah. Do we plan on going live? We did that last time. Now that we actually pick, we think we pick. I know within the first hour or so. Mm-hmm. Do we have any plans to? Well,
it's going to be. We could go live and do something there, but what's going to happen is we're going to get to the 9th pick. The Seahawks are going to trade back. Mm-hmm. And then John Schneider, they're finally going to draft a center because it's the only explanation that I can find that one, they pay $4 million to Austin Blythe.
Oh, I thought we were talking about it no more.
Then you hear Pete Carroll in his press conference say that we're quote unquote loaded at center. These things don't happen for a team that does not have its eyeballs on a center in the first round of the NFL draft. They are taking the first center off the board based off those two facts.
All right, serious question. Well, what's the date for the first round? What day is it?
April 28th.
April 28th.
Thursday.
There you go. See, Noof Guy knows. Noof Guy knows the name of our new center.
Okay, I'd take a Linderbaum. That sounds like a settery guy. That sounds good. I don't know anything about college players. So it's hard for me to get really fired up about who's going where and all that. It's just let me see him in the league, and then I can tell you more about him. I find college football to be pedestrian and boring, so I just don't watch it. But I can say that that weekend, or that's a Thursday, but that following weekend is a very short trip for me to Northern Idaho for work. So therefore, I don't have to be on the road. So therefore, if we want to do a live, first round show and show our disappointment all together at once, then I'm happy to do it.
All right. Well, that is something to look forward to. And we look forward to everybody subscribing to the show. Go out on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can know when we are going live so you can join us in the chat. It's always fun hearing what everybody has to say, even though Daniel has horrible takes about Bobby Wagner's play the last couple of years. I don't want to see that stuff, but I end up having to see it anyway, and maybe I'll just have to address it on an upcoming show. So thanks to Adam, thanks to Clinton for coming on, doing the live show, And gentlemen, with that,
There's only one thing left to say.
Go
go
Hawks.
Hawks.
Go Hawks.